All right, so Joe Rogan. All right, this is big. So Joe Rogan, obviously, people started pulling their music off Spotify. Neil Young, and then his old buddy, what's her name? Joni Mitchell, legendary 60s rock icons, started pulling their music off Spotify. And finally, Rogan made a video, which I thought was objectively just a humble video.
It was great.
Great. Making a lot of good points. Saying, hey, I had these two people on. Now, I got a lot to say about this. Having these two people on. What people do forget is he did have Peter Hotez on, who I love. Peter Hotez is doing amazing work in Texas. He's a scientist who has created a vaccine, an old school vaccine, not an RNA vaccine. Old school vaccines are where they put the dead virus in you.
Weakened form of it, and yeah.
Yeah, and it just gives you the reaction. So, I mean, so it takes away whatever conspiracy theory you have to try to give away to the world, to get the world vaccinated, because that's how we will truly stop future variants, because the more unvaccinated people there are, the more chance the virus has to replicate, etc. All right, don't turn it off. I'm done, okay? That's all I wanted to say. But he had Peter Hotez on. He had Sanjay Gupta on. It's hard to pronounce that name. Okay, I need to get Hank Azaria in here to help us. How do you... Sanjay Gupta. Sanjay Gupta. That would be the way it's pronounced. I'm just trying to be accurate. Sanjay Gupta. He had him on, CNN's resident scientist. Okay. He had another doctor on, a woman, I can't remember her name. So he's had other people on. Not just Dr. Peter Malone and McCullough, whose eyes are closer together than mine. Pull him up. Peter McCullough is his name. Check out his eyes.
Yeah.
I mean, the kid, I want to make him the first captain of Cyclops cult. I mean, the kid's eyes are on his nose.
Yeah, son.
He reads a lot of books.
I mean, the kid looks, me and him could play David Patterson in a movie. We look like we're blind.
If he was my doctor, I'd be anti-vax too.
Yeah. But, he's a real doctor. He's a cardiologist. Up until this vaccine thing, no controversy, well-respected. Peter Malone, obviously, there's more to his story, Peter Malone. Peter Malone just seems like kind of an angry, a little bitter that his name isn't, he keeps calling himself the inventor. Yeah, look at those eyes right there. It looks like it's photoshopped.
Yeah.
I mean,
He'll try to give you a shot in the arm and end up in your ear.
Dr. McCullough's eyes, dog. I mean, me and him, we could definitely see eye to eye. And then Dr. Malone obviously played a role in the invention, albeit seems like a small role, or not as big as others, but a part.
He got the patents on the vaccines.
Got some patents, and he played a role in a larger thing. Science is often, as Isaac Newton said, I invented so much because I stood on the shoulders of giants. It's a famous quote. It's a continual process. A lot of people contribute. Even Thomas Edison, those inventions there was a few other people inventing the same thing at the same time. He had those two on. Those two said some things. Now, Rogan has people on, whoever piques his curiosity, whatever his opinions or private thoughts are, and he lets them talk for 3 hours, okay? So I don't know why the ire is directed at him.
It's because the exposure. Like that's what it is. It's the exposure. Because
exactly.
The people who have the anti-vax mindsets, they're not on Spotify with 3 million streamers. They're outside your local Stop and Shop. That's where they are. So they don't get the exposure there. So that's why people are putting their stamp down on it now, which is fine. It's fine. Rogan did nothing wrong, and the exposure is something that they want to stop. So
also, I believe that those people would have believed that with Rogan or without. Because, those two doctors were out there and they were skeptical of vaccine or whatever their issues are, with or without Rogan. I think this is about Rogan's numbers and influence. I think this is a power play going like, damn, Rogan's pulling in 40, 50 million.
Okay.
CNN's pulling in 30,000 or something like that. Nobody's watching their horse shit. So they want to get rid of them. Because traditional media can't compete. It's the same reason why every comedian is called a white supremacist. The same reason why Candace Owens is called a white supremacist, even though she's fucking black. She's a conservative. She's a little nutty in my opinion. But to call her white supremacist, she's black. You know? So I'm not saying she couldn't align herself, but you got to admit, if the white supremacists let her in, then they've changed.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting pretty diverse. If they let him in, if they let Candace Owens in, if they let Ben Shapiro in, you're like, damn, Nazis are getting very progressive.
Yep.
They got a very diverse cast of white supremacists. But I think a lot of it is because they don't like the actual numbers these people are pulling in because of new media. They're trying to hold on to their old cruise ship while all these people are in speedboats, gold-studded speedboats, $100 million speedboats with one employee. Jamie, pull that off. So there's not a lot of people who got their hands in that money pot. There's a lot of people, what are their jobs going to be? If everyone's Tim Dillon now, you know, where's all those hands? If you're on SNL, there's a lot of hands in there. It's a lot of hands. It's like you're on the subway in Barcelona. There's a lot of hands in your pocket getting pickpocketed. You got an agent here. You got a manager here. You got a lawyer here. You got a studio executive here. You got a holding deal here. You got 3 executives whose job it is to tweak your show. You got a whole department of lawyers saying what you can and can't say. You got advertising representatives that need to tell you what are the confines of your show based on the show and who's advertising and what you can and can't say.
Doesn't fall in line with capitalism.
It doesn't fall in love with employing a lot of people who now are uncomfortable because they don't know how to code. This is a revolution in technology that has revolutionized economics, revolutionized the workforce, and it's not so comfortable for everyone. It's not so comfortable. Very comfortable for Rogan. Ain't so comfortable for CNN. Ain't so comfortable. So not only that, he's beholden to nobody. Right? He says what he wants, right? He has no sponsors, etc. These are legitimate questions that need to be addressed. Now, what I want to say about this is, obviously, the George Floyd issue was a moral issue to be enraged about. Even moral to protest and gather. That's America. That's all a good thing. But as we know, reality is amoral. Viruses don't give a fuck whether you're on the right side of history or not. So, when a whole population hears scientists say, which many of them did, and a lot of them were credentialed, experienced virologists, immunologists, epidemiologists saying, it's your duty to go gather in large groups and protest. And this was pre-vaccine in the heart of the pandemic, which undoubtedly, if you accept the reality that viruses don't care about the circumstances by which you're gathering, because they don't, obviously led to a lot of death. Because people were gathering, people go, oh, it's outside. It's like, you think the virus, people are shouting in each other's faces? You know, we know now that a lot of these masks aren't even that efficacious. So, for you to say people they can't go to work, you can't work and feed your family, you can't go to church and worship, you can't go to your friend's house, but we can, Boris Johnson, Gavin Newsom, whatever other fucking hypocrite holds office and has access to fucking monoclonal antibodies which cost a fucking $1,000+ a pop. You watch us doing this, we issue edicts saying you can't do this because you're putting people at risk and you're prolonging a pandemic, but we need you to go and protest because this is a bigger health concern right now than COVID. People go, you are full of shit, you virtual signaling fucking hypocrite. You scared little bitch. You're scared to say the truth because you don't want to seem bad. So you sent people out to protest, and that spread the virus. So how are we supposed to respect or honor anything you're saying as an authority?
Yep.
When you're so clearly being full of shit on this issue. Listen, there's consequences for everything. A lot of these scientists don't think because they're scientists. they feel like because they're working on cures and they're working in the lab and they have data, that they're above reproach, that they're above criticism, that they're above having their hands in, how should we say, Macbeth. There's a little blood in your hands. You want to point all at Rogan and go blood on his, blood on his, blood on his. Who's got more? First of all, is Rogan a member of the media? Did he go to Columbia Journalism School? Does he have to meet any standard of truth? A fucking comedian and martial arts commentator? Does he have to meet a standard of veracity on his own fucking podcast with Jamie? He has Tim. I've been on that fucking podcast. I've been on that podcast. How many things do I say that are fucking true? I've made the most of my money pretending to be other people in costume. Alex Jones has been on that fucking podcast. Not for his veracity. For his, look, I'm just going to take a shot at a few people who think Alex Jones is some fucking soothsayer because he was talking about what Epstein has done. All you got to do is a quick Google search. He was convicted in Florida. Everyone knew what he was fucking doing. It was well known what he was doing. That's how Alex Jones found out about it. He Googled. The only thing was people didn't give a fuck because he was powerful, and the powers that be didn't give a fuck. They let him off because he was powerful. And he probably had fucking blackmail tapes on all of them fucking childless. Yep. So that's the issue. Alex Jones wasn't some fucking prophet standing at the top of a mountain like some Greek soothsayer who had some inside scoop. He had Google. So Joe, who do we hold to the standard of veracity? I'll tell you who. News anchors, journalists, and most importantly, fucking scientists. And once you say shit like that, we can forgive a mistake, right? We can forgive a mistake. Oh, we thought this. We're behind it. We're learning about this virus. That's fine. But when you say, hey, don't wear a mask, and you lie because you're trying to conserve the mask rations, big mistake, fucko. Get in the lab, put your coat on, you little Long Island squeak. Okay? Get a PR rep to talk for you. Hire the same PR rep that Saudi Arabia has, because they do a great job. They cover up oppression and murder. They're still Saudi Arabia still murders people in the street. They have town squares that have grates in them to fucking hose the blood into those holes. But still, we're giving them millions of dollars, and they're our friend. Hire their fucking PR rep, Fauci. You shut your little squeak Italian mouth and put a lab coat on, a child size from the Baby Gap, and fucking start playing around with viruses and figure it out. I don't want to see you on the fucking View. That's who we hold the standard of veracity for, scientists. And we know that right there is the dissemination of disinformation, saying, hey guys, if you protest, as long as that protest is for a just cause, it's more important than social distancing. It's more important than not gathering in large groups, which the virus loves. So I just wanted to point that out. Not a lot of jokes there, and not a lot of passion, but I can work on that.